These are the psychological traps keeping 40% of married Americans locked in loveless marriages, and the reasons why, for some, staying can actually be the right choice. This video breaks down why people marry without love, the sunk cost fallacy that keeps them trapped, and why they remain for years, sometimes decades. Money shows up first, and that is where the math gets blunt. Nearly 1 in 5 Americans say they would consider marrying someone solely for financial reasons, and 2/3 of married couples report improved finances after marriage once expenses and incomes merge. That is not romance, it is basic household math. For many women, divorce can mean funding 2 households on the same income while also facing legal fees and asset division, which meant studies found money outranked love or hope as the main reason for staying. Direct Line Life Insurance reported that over 1/5 of parents who would have split stayed because of their children, and the average delay stretched to 5 extra years. 5 extra years can reshape a kid's whole childhood, quietly. Some couples build a parenting marriage that runs like a family partnership, yet 8 out of 10 children say they would rather their parents split than live in an unhappy home, and the result is that hostile households can push kids into parentification. Fear keeps plenty of people in place long after love fades, because predictability can feel like safety even when it hurts. This stems from anxious attachment patterns where the terror of abandonment outweighs the pain of staying. A familiar routine offers a clear tomorrow, which meant leaving brings the terror of living alone, starting over, dating again after decades, and admitting failure out loud. Attachment theory explains why predictable pain can feel safer than an uncertain future today. None of that fear proves the marriage works, yet the fear still holds the door shut. Social pressure adds a second lock, and it can weigh more than people expect. In many communities, marriage connects to family honor, religious duty, and social status, which meant divorce can trigger judgment or even exclusion when some groups do not recognize it at all. Approval from family and faith can become a cage fast. Gen Z is 406% more likely than boomers to say family pressure matters in marriage decisions. And this is where it gets worse, because the pressure can feel heavier than personal happiness. The sunk cost fallacy does the rest, because the mind treats years like a debt that must be repaid. Many people contemplate divorce for 2 to 3 years before acting, and some remain unhappily married for 5+ years, which meant the relationship keeps running long after the reason for it disappears. Time already spent does not come back, no matter what. A 2018 study from the University of Minho in Portugal put 900+ participants into relationship scenarios and found people clung harder when they had invested serious money and effort, even when the relationship looked clearly broken, and that investment turned into a leash. Adults over 60 tend to fall for this less, focusing more on the future they want than the past they cannot recover. Hope sounds softer than fear, yet it can trap people just as effectively through trauma bonding. Intermittent reinforcement explains the pattern, which meant most days feel cold and distant, then a kind moment or one good conversation lands at random and resets expectations. This creates trauma bonding, where the occasional positive reinforcement strengthens the emotional attachment despite overall dysfunction. One good day can reset the timer for months again. The result looks like a slot machine where the occasional win keeps someone feeding more time into a marriage that rarely pays back. For most of human history, love did not sit at the center of marriage, and that context changes how this topic lands. Romantic love as the main reason to marry only truly took hold in the 1800s, while centuries before framed marriage as economic and social, built on stability, alliances, and survival rather than passion. Romance arrived late to the marriage contract, historically speaking, overall. Once that shift happened, the modern expectation became a relationship that starts boiling hot and stays that way, even though real life rarely cooperates. 4% is the divorce rate often cited for arranged marriages, compared with the 35 to 50% range often cited for U.S. love marriages. Dr. Brian Willoughby of Brigham Young University described the contrast like this. Arranged marriages start cold and heat up and boil over time as the couple grows. Non-arranged marriages are expected to start out boiling hot, but many eventually find that this heat dissipates and we're left with a relationship that's cold. Researchers have reported no difference between arranged and free-choice marriages on measures like love, satisfaction, and commitment. Lower divorce rates do not equal higher joy automatically either. More than half of all marriages worldwide are still arranged, and one report on India says 68% of couples described their marriage as arranged in 2020, dropping to 44% by 2023, which meant lower divorce can also reflect pressure rather than happiness. Oscar Wilde put a hard edge on the emotional cost. Loveless marriages are horrible, but there is one thing worse than an absolutely loveless marriage. A marriage in which there is love, but on one side only, faith, but on one side only, devotion, but on one side only, and in which of the two hearts one is sure to be broken. That kind of one-sided love hurts for years inside people. Dr. John Gottman found that happy marriages tend to show a 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative interactions, and his research on the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, predicts divorce with 94% accuracy. Love as a label cannot carry a relationship that lives far below that balance. One study reported that 2/3 of couples who stayed together through difficult periods said they were happy within 5 years, and people who divorced during an unhappy period were no happier afterward than those who stayed, while abuse, addiction, or betrayal belonged to a different conversation entirely. Across the U.S., marriage itself has shifted, and the numbers tell the story without any drama. Gray divorce, divorce after age 50, has doubled since the 1990s as older adults prioritize happiness over stability. Only 88% of Americans now say love is the most important reason to get married, and in 2025, fewer than half of U.S. households are married couples, which meant marriage looks less like a default and more like a choice. Marriage is becoming optional. The average age at marriage now sits around 30.8 for men and 28.4 for women, up from 23.5 and 21.1 in 1975, and one prediction claims 1/3 of men and women who turn 45 in 2050 will never marry. Esther Perel summed up the modern shift with a clean line. People don't leave marriages these days because they are unhappy, they leave because they could be happier. Jennifer Weiner sharpened the point even more. Divorce isn't such a tragedy. A tragedy is staying in an unhappy marriage, teaching your children the wrong things about love. People in loveless marriages do not all fit one story, and the reasons for staying can range from money and kids to fear, pressure, sunk cost, and hope. Clarity matters most. A conscious choice paired with honest reasons beats drifting through years you cannot get back.